Organization behavior, unit 2. First one is foundation of individual behavior. So what do you mean by foundation of individual behavior? Human behavior, a complex phenomenon, as it is more difficult to define in absolute terms. So it is primarily a combination of responses to the external and then the internal stimuli. So these responses would reflect psychological structure of a person and may be result of combination of biological and psychological process and that interrupts them, respond to them in an appropriate manner and learn them from the result of these responses. Next, the individual makes a variety of contributions to the organizations in the form of their effort, skills, their ability, their time, and the loyalty to the organizations. So, these contributions presumably satisfy various needs and requirements of the organization. Next one is nature of individual differences. So the individual differences are personal attributes that vary from one person to the another person. So individual differences may be physical and psychological. So the psychological difference is the person's personality, their attitude towards the people as well as the organization, their perception, their motivation and their learning. So the physical difference means their height, their weight, the body shape, the appearance and the complexion. So whenever an organization attempt to assess for individual differences among its employees, it must consider the situation in which behavior occurs. So individuals who are satisfied in their context may prove to be dissatisfied in another context. Next one is personality. So the personality development of an individual starts at the birth and continues throughout. So the three major types of factors plays an important role in a personality formation. There are determinants, stages and traits. First one is determinants. The most widely studied determinants of personality are biological determinants. The most widely studied determinants of personality are biological, social, and cultural. So, heredity means their body shape and height, and the social context means their family and friends. The cultural context is religious and values in which people grow up, interact to shape their personality. So next one is stages. So Sigmund Freud Shaw, human personality develops progressing through four stages: dependent, compulsive, Oedipal, and mature. The concept of stages of growth provides a valuable perspective from which to view organization behavior. For example, experienced manager become aware of the stages that the employees often go through and they learn how to deal with these stages to promote maximum growth for the individual and for the organization. Next one is trait. So trait approach to personality formation are also based on psychology. According to some trait theories, all people share common traits like social, political, religious, and aesthetic preferences, but each individual deposition differentiates that person from all others. Next one is Next one is personality factors in organization. So there are 10 factors, personality factors in the organization. So we can see one by one. The first personality factors is need pattern. So Stees and Brandstein developed a scale for four personality needs that manifest themselves in the work settings. So first one is the need for achievement, affiliation, autonomy, and dominance. So first one is high in achievement. So they engage themselves in their work. Next one is need for affiliation. They like to work cooperatively with others members of the organization. Next one is need for autonomy. So it functions best when not closely supervised. Next one is need for dominance. They are very effective. Next one is locus of control. So locus of control is the degree to which an individual believes that his or her behavior has direct impact on the consequences of that behavior. For example, they strongly believe that each individual is in control of his or her life. Next one is introversion and extroversion. So introversion means the individual which directs them to turn inward and experience and process feelings throughout and ideas within themselves. Extroversion means individual to turn outward of themselves searching for external stimuli with which they can interact. Next one is tolerance and ambiguity. So this personality characteristics indicates the level of uncertainty. The people can tolerate without experiencing undue stress and can still function effectively. Next one is self-esteem and self-concept. So first, self-esteem is the most important personality factors that determines how manager perceive themselves and their roles in the organization. Next one is self-concept. So that is the way the individual define themselves as to who they are and they desire their sense of identity. Next one is authoritarianism and dogmatism. So, it is the extent to which an individual believes that power and status differences are appropriate within the hierarchical social system like organization. For example, an employee who is highly authoritarian accept directives or order from his superior with more authority. Dogmatism. So, it is a rigidity of the person's beliefs, his or her openness to other viewpoints. The popular term close minded and open minded describe people who are more and less dogmatic in their beliefs. For example, a manager may be unwilling to listen to a new ideas from doing something more effectively. He is said to be a person with close minded or highly dogmatic. Next, risk propensity. So, risk propensity is the degree to which an individual is willing to take chances and make a risky decisions. For example, a manager with a high risk propensity might be expected to experiment with new ideas and to lead the organization in new directions. Machiavellianism. So, it is a manipulation or influencing of other people as a primary way of achieving one's goal. And individual tends to be Machiavellism if he tends to be cool, logical in assessing the system around them. Next one is type A and type B personality. So, type A person feels a chronic sense of time, urgency, and highly achievable oriented, exhibit a competitive drive and or impatient when their work is slowed down for any reason. Type B persons are more easygoing individual who do not sense the time urgency and who do not experience their competitive drive. Next one is work area ethic orientation. So some individuals are highly work oriented while others try to do minimum that is necessary to get by without being fired on the job. The extremely work ethic oriented persons get greatly involved in the job. Learning. So learning is the another important psychological process that determines a human behavior. So first we can see the definition for the learning. So learning can be defined as relatively a permanent change in behavior that occurs as a result of experience or reinforced practice. So there are four important points in the definition of the learning. So learning involves a change in behavior, though this change is not necessary in improvement over a previous behavior. So the behavior change must be relatively permanent. Any temporary change in behavior is not a part of your learning. So the behavioral change must be based on some form of practice or experience. The practice or experience must be reinforced in order of learning to occur. Next, we can see the components of learning process. So, the components of learning process are drive, cue, stimuli, response, reinforcement, and retention. So, first one is drive. So, learning frequently occurs in the presence of drive, any strong stimulus that implies action. So, drives are basically of two types, primary or physiological drives, and secondary or psychological drives. Next one is cue stimuli. So, cue stimuli are any objects existing in the environment as a perceived by an individual. The idea is to discover the conditions under which stimulus which increase probability of eliciting a specific response. There may be two types of stimuli. First one is generalization and discrimination. So, generalization occurs when a response is selected by the similar but new stimuli. Generalization, a person does not have completely relearn each of the new task. Discrimination is the process whereby an organization learns to emit a response to a stimuli but avoids making the same response to a similar but somewhat different stimuli. Next, the third one is responses. The stimuli result in responses. Responses may be in a physical form or may be in the form of their employee's attitude, their familiarity, the perception, or other complex phenomena. For example, a supervisor discriminates between the worker producing a low quality products and the worker producing the quality products and positively responds only on the quality conscious work. Next is reinforcement. Reinforcement is the fundamental condition of learning. So, without reinforcement, no measurable modification of the behavior takes place. Reinforcement may be defined as an environmental event affect the probability of occurrence of the responses with which they are associated. Next one is retention. The stability of a learned behavior over time is defined as a retention, and the converse is the forgetting. Some of the learning is retained over a period of time while others may be forgotten. Next, we can see the learning theories. So, first one is a classical conditioning theory. So, it is a famous work from a Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov demonstrated the classical conditioning process. So, in this process, the Pavlov presented a piece of meat to the dog for the experiment. So, Pavlov noticed a great deal of salivation in the dog. He termed the food as a unconditioned stimuli and the salivation as a unconditional response. When the dog saw the meat, it salivated. When Pavlov merely rang the bell, the dog did not salivate. So Pavlov subsequently introduced the sound of bell each time the meat was given to the dog. The dog eventually learned to salivate in the response of ringing of the bell, even when there was no meat. So Pavlov has conditioned the dog to respond to the learned stimulus by giving the meat in and continuously ringing the bell. So, though it is also called the law of exercise, which states that the behavior can be learned by a repetitive association between the stimulus and a response. So, the classical conditioning represents an insignificant part of a total human learning. So, the classical condition is a passive. Something happens when we react in a specific or a particular situation. So, it is selected in a response of a specific identifiable event as such. It explains simple and a reflective behavior. So, the learning of this complex behavior can be explained or better understood by looking the operant conditioning theory. So, operant conditioning theory is defined as the behavior that produces effects. So, it is basically a product of a Skinnerian psychology, suggests that an individual emit response that are either not rewarded or punished. So it is voluntarily behavior and it is determined, maintained, and controlled by its consequences. So operant conditioning is a powerful tool for managing people in organization. Most behavior in organization are learned, controlled, or altered by the consequences. Management can use the operant conditioning process successfully to control and influence the behavior of employees by manipulating the reward system for the employees. Reinforcement is anything that both increases the strength of response and tend to induce repetition of the behavior. So there are four types of reinforcement strategies. First one is positive reinforcement, second one is negative reinforcement, third one is extinction, and fourth one is punishment. First one is positive reinforcement. So, positive reinforcement strengthens and increases the behavior by the presentation of a desirable consequences, that is, in the form of the reward. Otherwise, the positive reinforcement is a reward that follows the behavior and capable of increasing the frequency of the behavior. Next one is negative reinforcement. So it is the threat of punishment is known as a negative reinforcement. The negative reinforcers also serve to strengthen desired behavior responses leading to their removal or termination from their job. Next, fourth one is extinction. So, it is an effective method of controlling undesirable behavior. It is also referred to as a non reinforcement. So, extinction is a behavioral strategy that does not promote desirable behavior but can reduce undesirable behavior. Next one is punishment. So, punishment is a control device employed in organization to discourage and reduce annoying behavior of the employees. Next learning theory is observational learning. So observational learning result in as a result of watching the behavior of the another people and appraising the consequences of that particular behavior. For example, when Mr. X observes that Y is rewarded for his superior performance, X learns the positive relationship between the performance and the reward without actually obtaining the reward himself. Observational learning plays a crucial role in altering a behavior of the employees in the organization. Next one is cognitive learning. So cognitive learning is most important because it increases the change that the learner will do the right thing first time without going through a lengthy operant conditioning process. Next, attitude. So, attitude is an individual point of view or an individual way of looking at something. So, attitude are complex of beliefs and feelings that people have about specific ideas, situations, or other people. Next, we can see the what are the components of attitude. So, attitude have a three components: affective component, cognitive component, intentional component. So, first one is affective component. How we feel towards the situations. That is the feeling and emotions of an individual has towards a situation. Next one is cognitive component. Why we feel that way. Knowledge that an individual has about a situation. Intentional component. How we intend to behave towards the situations, expects to behave towards or in the situation. Next one is attitude formation. So individual attitude form over time as a result of repeated personal experience with ideas, situations, or people. First one is work related attitude. So, people in the organization form attitude about many things, about their salary, about their promotion, what are the possibilities, superior fringe benefits, food in the canteen uniform, etc. Next one is job satisfaction. So job satisfaction is attitude that reflects the extent to which an individual is gratified or fulfilled in his or her work. A satisfied employees also tend to be absent less and to make positive contribution and to stay with the organization forever. Next one is perception. So perception is the process that a people receive many different kind of information through all five senses, assimilate them and then interrupt them. Different people used to perceive the same information differently. So what next we can see the basic perceptual process. So perception is influenced by characteristics of the object being perceived and of the person or by the situational process. So first one is selective perception. So selective perception is the process of screening out information that we are uncomfortable with or that contradicts our beliefs. For example, a manager has a very positive attitude about a particular work and one day he notices that a worker seems to be goofing off. So this selective perception makes the manager to quickly disregard when he observed. Next one is stereotyping. So it is the another process of categorizing or labeling people on the basis of the single attribute. So, perception based on stereotypes about people's sex exists more or less in most workplaces. For example, if a woman sitting behind the table in the office perceived as a clerk or not an executive but would make a opposite assumption about the man. Next one is motivation. Motivation is defined as the set of forces that cause people to choose certain behavior among the many alternatives open to them. Next, we can see the importance of motivation. So, highly motivated employee make optimum use of available resources for achieving their objectives as well as the organization objectives. So, highly motivated employees make full use of the energy and the abilities to raise the existing level of efficiency and bring out the proper output. Next, highly motivated employees are more loyal and sincere to their organization, and they want to remain with the organization for a longer period of time. So these factors helps to reduce the absenteeism of the employees and it will reduce the labor turnover. So motivation is considered as the backbone of good industrial relations. Effectively motivated employees get more job satisfaction and carry high morale. Next, we can see the types of motivation. So, first one is incentive motivation. So, incentive motivation is when you are motivated to perform a task because of some potential reward given by the organization. So, people who are incentively motivated typically do not focus on the process of achieving the goal so long as they have to get reward from the organization as well as the top management. Next one is achievement motivation. So this motivation entails performing tasks to achieve a specific objectives. So with achievement motivation, you are likely to care more about committing yourself to the vision of the organization and accomplishing an objective that attaining awards. Example, we can take a scientist. Next one is power motivation. So, power motivation can be a positive way of developing your career, but it can also lead to the challenges in the organization. Next one is fear motivation. So, the fear of negative consequences can drive you to avoid an unpleasant experience such as termination of the employment, demotion, lawsuits, stagnation in role, and more. Next one is affiliation motivation. It is also known as social motivation. So this motivation encourages social interaction among people. So this need can motivate you to be an active member of a social group. Next one is competence motivation. So this motivation pushes people to become highly proficient at what they do, allowing them to become a subject matter specialist in a critical aspects of their job. So they are more specialist in their particular subject. Such professionals include neurosurgeons, aeronautical engineers, and other specialists who use their problems solving skills to respond to unique problem. Next one is attitude motivation. So this motivation drives an individual to change other people perception as well as thoughts. Next, ability. So ability refers to an individual skill and to perform effectively in one or more areas of activity such as physical, mental or interpersonal works, etc. So the next one is types of ability. There are two types of ability. First one is intellectual ability, next one is physical ability. So intellectual ability means it is the capacity to do the mental activities such as thinking, reasoning and problem solving in any situation. It is commonly refers to the ability measured by the performance of an intelligence test such as IQ test. The seven most frequent cited dimensions making up intellectual abilities are number attitude, verbal comprehension, perceptual speed, inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, and memory. Next one is physical ability. So, physical ability is the capacity to do tasks that demand stamina, desired strength, and similar characteristics. So, it can identify individuals who are physically able to perform the essential function of a job without risking injuries to others. So, it can also result in decreased cost related to disability, medical claims, insurance, workers' compensation, and decreased absenteeism in the organization. Thank you.